Welcome to Pelican Players Radio Theater. We're proud to present another fine addition to our library, David Harding, Counterspy, The Case of the Ainu. Enjoy.
The radio play you are about to hear was broadcast while we were still in the final year of World War II. It would be another 8 months until Japan surrendered. As a result, emotions in the United States were running high against Japan. Please keep this in mind as you enjoy the broadcast. We're also excited and proud to share with you that our own Jeanne Naish of Pelican Players played the part of Mary in the live broadcast on January 17th, 1945. She is reprising that role tonight, 79 years later. Jeanne also directed today's broadcast.
Washington calling, David Harding, Counterspy. Washington calling, David Harding, Counterspy.
Harding, Counterspy, calling Washington.
The makers of Mail Pouch Chewing Tobacco and Kentucky Club Smoking Tobacco present David Harding, Counterspy. On September 20th, 1901, in Yokohama, Japan, His Excellency General Yagase, the head of the Japanese Secret Service, was in his private office. His face was etched in shadows by the heavy draperies of the room. He waited impatiently. Suddenly, the heavy door to his office opened.
Your Excellency.
Oh, yes, Professor Takahisa. Please, won't you enter? It is a pleasure to receive you, Professor. For many years I have appreciated your accomplishments.
I am honored, Your Excellency.
You attended Columbia University in the United States?
I have a degree from there, Your Excellency, and then a doctor's degree from the University of Oxford.
And you then traveled extensively throughout Japan?
It has been my pleasure, Your Excellency.
I have been reading here the most interesting account of your recent trip. I'm especially interested in this paragraph from your second chapter, and I quote, "While traveling through Hokkaido, the northern island of Japan, I met many of our Ainu people, a strange white-skinned tribe who were heavily bearded, with deep-set eyes and straight noses. Although these Ainu are Japanese, they are, in appearance, closely related to the European."
They are a very interesting tribe, Your Excellency.
You realize, Professor Takahisa, your book has been published in English for Americans, also in German and French.
I have been thus honored, Your Excellency.
Did you have permission to make these findings public?
Well, permission? Why?
Idiot! Fool!
Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941. Then the early evening of January 2nd, 1945.
More coffee, Ken?
No, thanks, Lizbeth.
Ken, what's the matter?
Just thinking.
Business?
In a way. Lizbeth.
Yes?
Uh...
What are you trying to say, dear?
If any strange telephone call should come, or if I'm ever away from the house and anyone comes and waits for me, would you raise that shade in the living room window?
The creditors getting that bad, Ken?
Well...
Oh, which shade, dear?
The one facing the street.
All right. And don't worry about it, darling.
Daddy, Daddy.
What is it now, Mary?
You promised to read to me before I went to sleep.
Oh, not tonight, Mary.
But you
Not
promised.
tonight.
Oh, run off to bed, Mary. Mother will read to you later.
All right, Mummy. Only, gee whiz, he promised.
Ken, you shouldn't take your financial worries out on the children.
I've got to go.
You're going out again tonight?
Yes, I've got to. And don't forget about the shade.
This elevator going up. Floor?
What floor is George Luther on?
Huh? George Luther?
Yes.
5th floor. Yeah, you sure you mean George Luther? Okay, I can button my lip. Room 506. Huh, can you figure that?
Yes, sir. You wish to see me?
You're Mr. Luther?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Luther, I've been very much interested in the work you're doing. Your speeches. I'd like to talk to you.
Please, come in.
Thank you.
My friend, I don't know who you are, but praise the Lord your benevolences.
Mr. Luther, you've become quite a personage among black leaders.
I preach that race prejudice will be eliminated from this earth.
Unfortunately, race prejudice is a very tough subject right now, Mr. Luther. There have been many physical attacks upon people of your race. Don't you worry about yourself?
Never. I never preach bitterness, for I am convinced that only better understanding can come through love of one's fellow beings.
Mr. Luther, I agree heartily. I'd like to shake your hand.
Why, thank you, sir. That would be a mutual pleasure.
Counterspy requisitions. Bring file 14F and 14G to desk 6. Attention, Mr. Harding. Attention, Mr. Harding. Call for you on your private wire. Call for you on your private wire.
Hello, Harding speaking.
This is Peters. A report just flashed in from Baltimore.
Yes?
A prominent black leader, George Luther, murdered last night. This is the third murder of a prominent black person in 3 weeks, Mr. Harding.
Yes, Peters, I'm very aware of that. See that nothing at the murder scene is touched. I'll be in Baltimore in 2 hours. All right, Peters, have the men examine this office where the murder took place very carefully. I want to talk to this elevator boy.
Yes, Mr. Harding. All right, men, we'll start over here at this end.
Now, your name?
Mike Johnson.
Empty that waste paper basket and check everything.
You took a man up in your elevator last night who asked for Mr. Luther's room.
Sure, why not? I mean, I didn't know he was no killer.
What time?
I don't know, 7:45?
Did he speak to you?
Sure. He says, let me remember. He says to me like this, what floor is George Luther on? And I says, 5th floor.
Anything else?
Nah.
How large a man was he?
Oh, I don't know. Big as you, I guess.
You say anything to him?
Well, I asks this character. I says, is he sure he wants to see George Luther?
And he said?
Nothing. Kept his trap shut. I mean, I figured the guy ain't sociable. I dump him off on the 5th floor and mind my own business.
What did he look like?
Like any other mug. 2 ears, 1 nose, all them details.
What coloring was he?
Come again?
What color was his skin?
White.
Hair?
Brown.
Eyes?
Hey, what do you think this is? I don't stand and gaze in no guy's eyes.
You're positive he was white?
That I am. That I am.
Notice anything else about him at all?
Such as?
I'm asking you.
Yeah, well, look, I take so many people up and down and up and down. All I know is he was a big guy and he was white.
I see. Well, Mike, I may want to talk with you again.
Yeah, sure, Mr. Harding. Hey, something like this kind of breaks the monotony.
All right, Peters, finish up here.
Yes, Mr. Harding.
If you find anything significant, phone me at once. You say, Dr. Davis.
Yes, this is a photograph enlarged 1,400 times of a small section of hair found under the fingernail of the murdered man. Here, all projected on the screen.
Now, Doctor, this discovery you have made is of most vital importance. You're positive this piece of hair you found under the fingernail of Mr. Luther is not Mr. Luther's own hair?
I'm absolutely positive, Mr. Harding.
I see. Go ahead, Doctor.
Now look at the enlargement of that hair on the screen. By the size of the medulla, that's the inner structure of the hair. We know it is human hair. From the structure of this hair, we can approximate the man's age. He was between 40 and 45.
Ah, that fits right in with the rest of the evidence, Doctor.
I can also tell you the race of the man by the shape of the hair. Black person hair is flat, white hair is oval, but Asian hair is round. Notice that hair.
It's round.
Yes, Mr. Harding.
You mean to say you think the man who killed Mr. Luther is Asian?
Definitely, Mr. Harding.
But that's impossible, Chief.
That brown hair is from the head of an Asian.
Now, wait a minute, Doctor. It couldn't be. We've established the murderer as white.
I'm sorry, Mr. Harding, but this hair is from the head of an Asian.
It can't be, Doctor.
But the answer, it is.
I see, Doctor. Place that hair in the laboratory safe. On your findings may depend a very serious national crisis. Come on, Peters. We're going back to see Mike Johnson, the elevator boy.
I'm telling you, Mr. Harding, 50 times now. This guy was white. W-H-I-T-E. White.
How come you're so positive, Mike?
Well, I seen him. I rode him in the elevator. I remember. He was white.
Maybe a yellowish white?
No. White. Like you. Like me.
How did you happen to notice him so carefully?
Oh, have a heart, will you, Mr. Harding?
How did you?
I seen him.
Wait, just a minute.
Yeah?
This overhead light in the elevator, is this the same type of bulb you always use?
Yeah, sure is.
Well, I give up. I thought perhaps a different colored bulb might have made a yellow person look white.
Hey, what's the matter with the guy being white? I mean, is it a crime or something?
Peters.
Coming, Mr. Harding.
By George, I may have it.
What's the matter, Chief?
I've got a thought, Peters. If I'm right, it's one of the biggest cases we've ever had. We're going back to headquarters. Let's go.
You look like a librarian, Mr. Harding. Got every reference book in the world on your desk.
We're hot, Peters. Did you get that other book I wanted?
Yes, sir. The first volume, Encyclopedia Britannica.
Look under A, A-I-N-U. That's what I want. What does the encyclopedia say about the Ainu tribe?
Well, here it is. A proto-Nordic people, barbaric in custom, living on an island off the north coast of Japan.
Proto-Nordic. You mean a Nordic type. White. Now, Peters, here's the really important source right here. This book, a translation from the Japanese. It was written by Professor Takahisa of the University of Yokohama. It's an account of his travels throughout Japan in the year 1901.
Yes?
Listen. While traveling through Hokkaido, I met many of our Ainu people, a strange white-skinned people who are heavily bearded, with round, deep-set eyes and straight noses.
White-skinned Japanese?
Although these Ainu tribes are Japanese, they look European.
The Ainu? But Mr. Harding...
Now, Peters, look at this book, the Deutsche Geschichte. Here's a footnote on this same Professor Takahisa. Read it.
Shortly after Professor Takahisa's return from his travels in September of 1901, he was killed by unknown parties, or party.
Peters, if what I believe is true, it's incredible.
Where are you going, Chief?
I have to think, Peters. I'm going out and walk and think.
Back to David Harding, Counterspy, in just a moment. But first, the next time your dealer says, sorry, no got, tell him to give you a package of white burley Kentucky Club smoking tobacco. For when you put Kentucky Club in your pipe and smoke it, your smoking problems are solved. Because Kentucky Club is mild, delightfully mild, with a fragrance that is both pleasant and inviting. It has a taste and flavor that satisfies every time. Kentucky Club burns freely, evenly, leaves no sticky heel. That means your pipe stays sweet, tastes good. Whether you're a regular pipe smoker or one of the many men who are finding new smoking pleasure in a pipe, make your next purchase White Burley Kentucky Club, and you'll agree that, quality and smoking pleasure considered, it is truly America's #1 pipe smoking value. A value that challenges comparison. Buy a supply of White Burley Kentucky Club smoking tobacco and treat yourself to real pipe smoking enjoyment. And now, back to David Harding, Counterspy.
Come in. Oh, how'd you know I was here, Peters?
After 10 years of working with you, sir, I should know by this time when you're stuck. 9 times out of 10, I can find you at the scene of the crime.
Oh, and this time I am stuck, Peters. Sit down.
Can't I put on the light, sir?
No, let's just sit here a while in the dark. A murderer, a white Japanese, came through that door.
But, Mr. Harding, the reports on the freak Ainu Japanese tribe show that they were ignorant, stupid. They couldn't pass as educated white men.
Professor Takahisa wrote that, Peters, back in 1901. Think, wasn't Professor Takahisa mysteriously killed that year?
Yes.
Why?
I don't know.
Maybe he was killed because he unwittingly exposed an important Japanese plan.
Such as?
The Japanese warlords may have wanted to keep the Ainu tribe a secret. Let's say they set up a colony of Ainu women and Manchu Korean men, a much more intelligent people than the Ainu. Children were born.
Yes?
Children with the height and intelligence of the Manchu Korean, but children who looked white, like the Ainu. Children who could be scientifically trained and educated by Japan, then sent out to live among whites.
But good Lord, Mr. Harding.
Remember, this was back in 1901. These children would be grown men and women now, some 40 years old. Heaven knows how many of them may have come here to America.
Well, Mr. Harding, that would give them a terrific striking power. But wouldn't we have heard by now about their activities?
Well, not if they were instructed to do nothing, to remain under cover.
But why?
To save them for the psychological time.
Oh.
Such as starting race prejudice, animosities.
You mean...
I mean planting the seeds of hate, harmful to morale, harmful to a nation's health, incredibly harmful to war production.
White Japanese? Why, they may have even married American girls.
Right by that door, a kindly black preacher. The door opens. A supposed white man enters and kills him. Why? To keep the race hatred going.
And have children by now. White Japanese children. White Japanese. A report. Children.
What is it, Peters?
Wait a minute, Mr. Harding. A year ago, no, about a year and a half ago, a hospital report.
What, Peters?
It was from Philadelphia. No, Baltimore.
What is it, Peters?
I wish I could remember. Look, Mr. Harding, let's get back to headquarters and see if we can dig up this report. I know I can find it if I can get back to the office. Yes, this is the report, Mr. Harding. I knew I'd find it if...
Yes, Peters?
No, this isn't it. Yes, it is. Baltimore. I knew it was Baltimore.
Come on, Peters. What is it?
Listen, Mr. Harding. Report from J8, Baltimore, Maryland, 1942. Dolan children. Elizabeth Dolan, mother, brought 2 children to the Reed Hospital for impediments in their speech.
Yes?
Both children suffered from an inability to pronounce the letter L. Doctor's examination proved children's impediments were not due to a physical condition, suggested hereditary weakness or environmental influence of Japanese.
Japanese? Was this case investigated?
Yes, Chief, but no one thought of white Japanese at the time.
Go on.
Here's the notation.
Mother Elizabeth Dolan, 4th generation American woman, checked into her family, traced to pioneers, knew of no possible Asian influence. Father Ken Dolan, born in England. Then the financial report.
The Dolans are in Baltimore. The murders happened there, too.
Dolan.
It coincides.
Send out at once for a complete description of Kenneth Dolan. Peters, you may have hit on something.
Mr. Harding?
Yes, Peters.
The description of Ken Dolan came in from the Baltimore field office. It tallies exactly with everything we know about the white man who visited Mr. Luther the night he was killed.
Find out where Dolan is.
Yes, Chief, and I've got a picture of him.
Perfect. Let me have it. I'm going to take it to the elevator boy myself.
Going up, car, going. Oh, you, Mr. Harding.
Close the elevator door, Mike.
Yes, sir. Hey, what's eating you, Mr. Harding?
Take a look at this picture, Mike. Ever see this man?
Oh, sure. Sure, he's the guy I took up to see Mr. Luther the night Luther was bumped off.
Perfect. All right, Mike. Take me up in your elevator as though I wanted to see someone. Then, take me down again.
Oh, secret, huh?
Yes, Mike. Secret. Have you completed a thorough check on Mrs. Dolan, Peters?
Yes, Mr. Harding. She's a fine woman, well liked. You don't think she has any idea that Dolan...
I'm convinced she knows nothing about him. My secretary is trying to get her on the phone now.
Imagine, a fine American woman married to that skunk.
Oh, it'll be a brutal blow.
The 2 kids, what kind of break will they get?
I think I'd rather do anything in the world than have to tell that woman she's married to an enemy agent.
Yes, that's one job I wouldn't like either.
Wait, Peters. Hello?
Hello, this is Mrs. Dolan.
Oh, is Mr. Dolan in?
Why, no, he isn't.
Do you expect him in this evening?
Not before 11. Who is this calling?
Oh, just tell him an old friend. I want to surprise him. I'll call back tomorrow. Goodbye. Peters, I haven't got the heart.
You've got to tell her, Chief.
Yes, I know it. Well, we can be in Baltimore before 10. That'll give us nearly an hour with Mrs. Dolan before her husband arrives.
Hello.
Oh, hello. Is your mother in?
Mommy,
Yes,
it's 2 men.
just a minute.
What's your name?
Mary?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know Mary was answering the door.
Mrs. Dolan, I'm David Harding. My credentials
Oh.
of the United States Counterspies. My assistant, Mr. Peters.
How do you do? Won't you come in? Mary,
Yes,
it's time
Mommy.
for you to go upstairs and get undressed.
Oh, Mommy, please.
Now, Mary,
May I?
be a good girl.
All right.
And
Good
call
night.
Mother when you're ready.
Okay, I call you.
Won't you gentlemen step into the living room?
Oh, thank you. I'll ask Mr. Peters to wait out here in the hall.
Right, Chief.
What can I do for you, Mr. Harding?
I want to talk to you, Mrs. Dolan. And it's a difficult talk.
Won't you sit down? I just want to fix the window shade. Now, Mr. Harding, I'm a little nervous. Why are you here?
Mrs. Dolan, have you ever heard of the Ainu tribe in Japan?
Why, no. Should I have?
Well, I must tell you a very strange thing, Mrs. Dolan. I ask you to accept it as fact, because it is fact.
Oh, Mr. Harding, you worry me.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Dolan, but I must tell you. On one of the Japanese islands is a tribe of white Japanese. Some 40 years ago, we have reason to believe that the Secret Service of Japan mated these men to a certain race of Japanese women. The children, some of whom were born with white skins, were educated in foreign countries by the Japanese government. They were trained in espionage, and they could pass as white men. Some of these men were sent to America, where they have lived for a number of years, until called upon by the Japanese.
Why, Mr. Harding, that's unbelievable. Isn't there something you can do about it?
Why, yes,
Well,
we.
none of them have married American girls without their knowing it, have they? Why, I think that would just be the most terrible thing that. Oh!
Oh, Mrs. Dolan,
Oh,
please.
no,
please,
no, not me.
Yes.
Oh, my
yes.
God, no. Take it back. Take it back. You didn't say it.
Believe me,
No.
Mrs. Dolan, this is the hardest thing
no.
I've ever had to tell anyone.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Harding. I don't believe you. You are a liar.
Mrs. Dolan,
No.
your two children, I understand they have a strange speech impediment.
Well, there's nothing to be ashamed of, and
They cannot pronounce the letter L, can they?
no, but
Neither can Japanese.
oh,
May I get you something, Mrs. Dolan?
tell me all of it.
We are here to arrest your husband for being a Japanese spy and murdering a George Luther prominent black
No.
Mr. Harding,
minister. Yes, Peters.
there's a man about halfway down the block. He's quite large. I believe it may be.
Mrs. Dolan, I believe your husband is coming. Wouldn't you like to go up to your room?
Well, yes, I would like to. I've got to. No, there's something else.
May I help you?
No, I just want to pull this shade down in the front window. My husband, he once asked me to keep this shade up if we ever had strange visitors. I didn't understand then. All I ask is that they never know.
Mommy.
Would you like to go up to them?
No, Mr. Harding. I'll stay.
He's turned up the front walk, Mr. Harding.
Come in here, Peters. We'd better stay out of sight.
For the sake of the children.
Good evening, darling.
Good evening, Ken. You have visitors, Ken.
Oh? I thought I always told you to pull up the,
Ken, this is Mr. Harding of the United States Counterspy.
Oh, what do you want?
Do we really have to tell you, Mr. Dolan?
Tell me?
Perhaps, Kenneth, I can explain. Mr. Harding has discovered that you are Japanese and that you have murdered a black minister.
Why, this is rather sudden. I'm sure that you are mistaken.
He's making a break. Watch out, Mr. Harding.
Oh!
Mommy, what happened?
Nothing, Mary. Mother's coming right up.
Back in a moment to tell you about next week's Counterspy case with David Harding. But in the meantime, for 65 years, Mail Pouch has been a favorite with men who find pleasure and relaxation in chewing tobacco. Mail Pouch is preferred because it is a chewing tobacco you can depend on. A helpful friend to tired bodies and tense nerves, a source of relaxation and satisfaction at work or at play. For chewing serves to steady nerves. And the uniform quality of Mail Pouch chewing tobacco, its delicious, enjoyable taste and flavor are truly unsurpassed. For real pleasure and enjoyment, join the many thousands who prefer and demand this expertly blended, top-quality chewing tobacco. Buy a supply of Mail Pouch and treat yourself to the best. For the Office of War Information, a word of warning to all Americans. Be careful of your speech. The enemy may be listening. If you know something about the shipment of supplies, movement of troops, plan of attack, don't repeat it to anyone. The enemy has a way of putting together seemingly harmless bits of information. If you see something, hear something, or know something pertaining to our part in the war, which may be of value to the enemy, don't tell it. Even when you speak conversationally, the enemy may hear you. When you talk about the war, discuss only those items which are broadcast over the radio or which appear in the newspapers. That information is public knowledge. Remember, in wartime, weigh carefully what you say before you say it. Careless talk costs lives. This is the Blue Network. Here are the crew and cast members of David Harding, Counterspy. Our recording, audio effects engineer, and post-production editor was Bob D'Almeida. Our sound engineer, Julie Ramsey. Microphone assistants, Kathy Stevens and Alexis Swenson. Dan Tackitt played David Harding. Kevin Steinke was Peters. Donna Fiore was heard as Lizbeth Dolan and Voice. Paul Ansell played the part of Mike Johnson. Jack Stevens portrayed Luther and General Yagasi. Guy Bailey was heard as Ken Dolan. Rick Swenson was Professor Takahisha. The Doctor was played by Michael Denota. Jeanne Naish reprised her original role as Mary, the little girl, and also directed this production of David Harding, Counterspy. This is your announcer, Paul Ansell.